Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Tech Tuesday. My name is Vanessa. I'm with ITS Communications, and joining me today is Bridget McFadden, also with ITS Communications. Thank you, Bridget. She's going to help me answer some of your questions today about Poll Everywhere. If you've never used Poll Everywhere before or have kind of dabbled in it, but maybe are looking to see what kinds of things you might be able to do with Poll Everywhere, you're in the right place, especially because Poll Everywhere just changed some things around on their website. So we'll be going through, what the interface looks like now and what you can do with it. We do have some people still signing in. While they're doing so, I'll let you know that I'm recording today's session. So I'll be sending you the recording at the end of the day so you can go back and take a look at it, as well as some helpful links about what you can do with Poll Everywhere and some guides to help you out if you get a little stuck. If you do have any questions during today's session, please post them in the chat. Bridget will be going through that, and I'll also be stopping every so often to take your questions. But without further ado, let's get started. So what is Poll Everywhere? For those of you who don't know, this is our official audience response solution, which is just a fancy way of saying this is the official tool that ITS supports for you to just create polls and use them during a presentation. It's entirely web-based, so all you need is an internet connection to use it. So the way it works, you create the poll, you display it on your screen, and that can be in person or over Zoom like I'm doing today. And the audience can respond in one of three ways. So they can just use a web browser, which is super easy for most people to do. Everybody's got a smartphone nowadays or like a tablet on them. So they just have to pull up a browser and they're going to put in a URL that you give them and they can take their polls. Some polls actually allow for text messaging. Standard rates do apply. So I will say that just in case you are planning to use it, something you might want to tell your attendees about. But there are some polls that allow for people to just text message their answer in through their phone. There's also a Poll Everywhere mobile app. I won't go too much into detail for that option today. That option is really great for people who might be professors or have regular class time with the same group of students. And your students can just use the app to log into your polls and get to them a little faster. They don't always have to pull up a browser or sign into the text option. So it's just a great option for people who have kind of a more standing classroom situation. And so the polls are conducted live in real time. So as soon as people answer, you see it on the screen. It only takes a couple seconds for it to appear. And the number of polls that you can generate at one time with your presentation is 1,600 per session. So most people don't have to worry with our license that they won't have enough, slots for people to take their polls unless you are giving your poll to a massive arena. I think you'll be fine. So again, 1,600 is the maximum number of polls that you can do with Poll Everywhere. So why should you use it? Honestly, it's a really fun tool to use. It's a great way to kind of break up your presentation, get people engaged, and have them pay attention to things that you're talking about in a way that's fun for them. You can use it for knowledge checks or quizzes, which I'll show you a little bit of how that will work today. And you can use it to get immediate feedback from your colleagues. So if you're having kind of a standing meeting with your peers and you just want to get a quick reaction of how they feel about specific topics that you guys are working on, maybe a project or things like that, just throw up a poll everywhere and see what people think about it. You can also do some cool team building activities. There is a competition mode in Poll Everywhere that's really, really cool. If you've ever done something like kind of bar trivia, that's what it's like. And then people have a certain amount of time to answer the questions and they get points based off the answers. I worked with a couple of departments to help them set that up, and they really liked it. And it's also free. Free meaning no added expense to your department. You don't have to request to use it. You can just go to the Poll Everywhere website after today's session and start using it yourself. So who can use it? Basically, there's two types of accounts. One is the presenter account, which probably matches what most people here are able to access. It's available to all faculty and staff with an active CWEED and password at Weill Cornell. And basically, you're just going to go to the Poll Everywhere site, which I'll show you in a little bit, and just type in your seaweed, your rather instead of seaweed, your WCM email, and then it'll direct you to our web login that you've seen basically for every web-based service that we offer. Students can take polls with a responder account, but they can't necessarily create them. So those are the two types of accounts that we offer at Weill Cornell. So we are going to try out some polls right now, actually, so you kind of get a taste for what Poll Everywhere can do. So if you've got a phone near you, if you've got your laptop on you, just open up a browser and go to this URL, pollev.com/Vanessa. When you're ready to go, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat that you're good to go, and Bridget can tell me when there's like a good amount of people who are ready to take our polls. Your screen should look something like what I have on the right-hand side.
I see a bunch of good to goes in the chat.
Okay, great. I'm gonna start the polls. If you haven't quite logged in yet, it's okay because the URL is gonna be at the top of every slide, so don't worry about it. All right, let's get started. So here is the first question. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie? Put any answer that you like. Okay, so Thin Mint's taking the lead right now. Oh, we've got Samoas. I was wondering if those were gonna pop up. All right, and you can see as people are answering, the numbers, the percentages are adjusting the more people answer the question. And you can see now that Thin Mints is kind of dropping, Samoa's is growing. So this is a standard multiple choice question in Poll Everywhere. And this is how it usually looks on screen. Thank you guys for answering that one. Let's move on to the next one. So this is a kind of fill in the blank answer. I'm kind of plowing through my Netflix queue. What should I watch? You know, I've got a few things on my mind of the next series that I should, you know, oh, Gilmore Girls or Feel Good. Okay. CSI. Any other good ones? Top Chef. I think I've seen a few episodes of that one. Handmaid's Tale is on my list. Thank you. I do need to watch that. I've been kind of slacking. Big Sky. Money Heist. Awesome. Really great suggestions, guys. And you can see that it kind of takes a few seconds for it to go through, but it's just displaying everything that you guys are telling me about. Oh, I think I have Arrow on my list, actually. I am also out of shows to watch. I'm sorry. Yes, it's really hard to pick the next one. There's so many. I see Two Big Skies. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that one. Oh, I love Last Week Tonight. Thank you for whoever posted that one. I do watch that online. And let's move on to the next poll. And I will save these answers myself or to watch later. So this one is kind of a cool one. This is an image related one. And all you have to do is tap on your screen to tell me where you think the gallbladder is in this image. All right, you see these little pin marks showing up now. And those are all of your answers. They're just clustering on the screen. This is how everyone is answering. Okay, I'll leave it up a couple more seconds to see if anyone wants to do like a last second answer. It looks like you guys are done. What's really cool about this type of image related question is that I can move over to the right hand side, and Poll Everywhere slides have these kind of floaty little buttons on the right hand side that you just use your cursor to access. Actually, let me see if I can, there's my arrow. If I do show regions, you can see that about 17% of you got the answer correct. It's this little shadowy area right here on the top left. And that, I think that's a really cool way to kind of like quiz people and gauge what their answers are in a more visual way. So thank you guys for filling out these questions. I am going to have a couple more later on in the session, so you can keep the browser window open if you would like. But here are some links that we're going to talk about, and I'll be sending them to you via email. Since you registered, I have all of your info on file. So the way that you're going to access Poll Everywhere is just going to polleverywhere.com. Super simple. If you ever run into an issue or you kind of have a question about how to do something in Poll Everywhere, you're going to go to polleverywhere.com/support. There's a bunch of super great help articles there. I access it all the time myself when I have ideas about what to do with my polls. But if you have questions about your particular Weill Cornell license, you can go to its.weill.cornell.edu/polleverywhere. Again, I'll email this all to you. And that'll tell you what our license includes. Like, for example, I told you you have, you can do 1,600 polls at a time, things like that. So you'll be able to find out details on what our license includes. And also there's some really good help guides on that page as well. So I highly recommend it. So I am going to move on to the Poll Everywhere website to show you how to use it. But before I do that, Bridget, do we have any questions that I might be able to answer right now?
Yes, we have one question. Are the responses anonymous?
Yes, so there's a way that you can make them anonymous and also track who answered the question. I'll show you how to do both of those, but the anonymous is great for the poll I did just now. I don't know who answered what, but if, again, you are in a classroom setting and you give quizzes and kind of want to grade, there's a gradebook option. You may want to be able to track who is answering your polls. So I'll show you how to set up both. And you can decide, when you set up your own polls, what's the most appropriate option. But that's a really great question. Any other questions?
Yes, another one just came in. Can we make polls where participants can select more than one response? And can we set how many responses are allowed?
Yes, so you can set how many responses there are available to choose from. So you could have as few as 2 and as many as, like, I don't know, I haven't even tried it. I think I've had like 7 or 8, although I will caution you that the more options you put up on the screen, the kind of more compact all the text looks on when you're displaying it. So you might want to be mindful of just how many options you're giving people to answer. I think there was also a question, I think the other part of the question was, can they select more than one answer? Was that it?
Yes, yep.
You can only select one from the options there, since it is a poll. So I guess you'd have to phrase your answers in a certain way if you want people to kind of select more than one choice. But because it's a poll, you can either just have them give their opinion and there's no right answer, or you can select an answer that is the correct option, like I did in that gallbladder one, and just kind of reveal what the answer is later when you're giving your presentation. So I'll give you a quick view of how that works. But guys, I'm going to move to the Poll Everywhere website, and that's what my dashboard looks like. But before I do that, how you're going to access your Poll Everywhere account is just by going to polleverywhere.com. And actually, I'm going to log out really quick, just so you could see what it looks like when you log in. Yes, I will accept cookies. So you're going to click login right here. And you are going to put in your Weill Cornell email address. It's got to be the WCM one, okay? And when you do that, you're going to click next. And you'll see the button changes to log in with Weill Cornell. And then you're taken to this very familiar page, I'm sure, where you just have to log in with your CWEED and password to gain final access to your account. All right. So this is my dashboard in Poll Everywhere. There's like a quick view of what polls I might have activated right now. The one that's activated is actually the last one that we did about the gallbladder. It's giving me a little preview there. I can deactivate it if I'd like. And all down this middle section of my dashboard, these are all of the polls that I have created, and I can use them anytime I want, or delete them, or edit them. But basically, this is kind of a big record of everything I've ever created in Poll Everywhere. All right. So the first thing I like to tell people to do before they even get started doing polls is to look at what their assigned URL is. So you can see that mine is pollev.com/Vanessa. That is the URL that is going to be what I use any single time I display polls. All right. It never changes. That is my personal URL. Okay. It didn't always used to be pollev.com/Vanessa though. When you sign in for the first time, Poll Everywhere is going to assign you kind of a randomized version of your name. So it was actually like Vanessa, and then it was like a string of numbers. And I felt that was pretty difficult for people to actually type into their phones and things like that. So the way that you can actually simplify the poll name that you are given is to go all the way down to the bottom left of your screen, and you'll see like there's a little icon here of a person. It's your profile. So you're going to click on that, and you'll see right here at the very top, personal info, your username. Okay. This is where you're going to see the username that they assign you. And you can put anything here that you want, so long as it's never been taken by anyone else with a Poll Everywhere account. I was actually surprised that nobody had taken Vanessa. So all I did was type it in and click to change. And if that username is available, Poll Everywhere will just give it to you. Okay. One cool thing that Poll Everywhere just recently did was you can give people this URL for them to access your polls, but you can also give them a QR code. So let's say you have a PowerPoint presentation and they can type in the URL, but also you can also display a QR code on your screen. There's mine. People can point their phones at it using their cameras, and it'll take them right to the website. So it's kind of a cool feature that they just added very recently, because the last time I was in here a few weeks ago, it was not something that I saw. But so this is your profile. You can take a look at options here. I won't go too much into this, but basically you can look at several settings here and kind of play around with how your account works. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this right off the bat because you want to get used to using the tool first, and you don't necessarily want to mess with the way that polls are used at the moment when you're kind of fresh, a fresh student kind of using Poll Everywhere for the first time. But I will point out two really cool things under your profile. One is international text messaging. So let's say you're giving a Zoom presentation and you have people from outside of the US who are joining your presentation, and you're going to be doing Poll Everywhere polls. Let's say you're going to have text messaging as part of your presentation, and you've got people from Australia joining. You can always click right there, and it'll give them a number that they can dial into so that they don't have to get international text messaging fees applied to them. So it's just kind of a cool feature, I think. And they have almost every country here, but it's not quite there. But it's really cool. And, it's just something to think about if you have international folks joining your calls. There's also a features lab. Oops, 1 second. Yes. So there's also a features lab where Poll Everywhere is kind of testing new things that you can add to your account. And if you want to try them out, all you have to do is toggle this to on and apply the settings, and you can try them out in your own account. So just these two, I think, are pretty cool and something worth looking into when you're first trying to use Poll Everywhere. But let's go to our polls. So if I want to go back to that main page where I had all of my polls that I want to create, I can either click this Poll Everywhere logo at the very top or hit activities, which is this kind of graph icon right here. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to leave. Oh, that's not good. Let's try this one more time. Okay. So I want to create a poll with you guys right now that we can take, and I'm going to hit activity. All right. So this is where you get to decide what type of question you want to ask in Poll Everywhere. So multiple choice is pretty standard, but you've got a bunch here that you can use. Here's that competition I was talking about earlier. I used open-ended before. Word clouds can be kind of cool visually on the screen, and clickable image was the one that I used with the gallbladder scan. But there's a ton here, and you can click on any of these, and the question format changes based on what you want to use. But today I'm going to use a multiple choice because it's the easiest and most popular. And we're going to do a really quick question here at the very top. How do you pronounce this term? Oops. All right. And I've got two options that I'm going to give you. All right, so I've got two options here. Do you pronounce it GIF or GIF? All right. And it's your opinion. There's no right answer. For the person who asked how you can add more answer options, right here, you'll see an add option button. And I can add as many answers as I would like to my poll. In this case, I only have 2 options that I really want to give you. So these 3 that I just added, I can always delete answers by clicking the trash can button very far to the right here. All right. If one of these was a correct answer, let's say hypothetically, I could just click this button here, this little check mark, and that would be the right answer. So if I was giving you a quiz and wanted to reveal the right answer later, that's how I would do that. And you can also move this the options, the order of the options rather, by just clicking on the left-hand side and dragging, and you can decide what order you want your answers in. Just in case you're making it and you realize, oh, I'd rather have that at the top. You don't have to like delete them all and redo it. You could also add images by clicking this little image icon to your answers. And that's pretty much it. I created this question, I don't know, in like 10 seconds. That was pretty cool. But now I have to figure out how I'm going to get it to a state where I can share it with you and have you answer. So the way that you're going to do that is just by clicking create. If you want to create another poll in this series, let's say, you just click add another activity and create another question. But in this case, I've just got the one for you. So I'm going to click create. Perfect. So I've got my poll ready here, and I'm going to make some adjustments to it to figure out who can respond. Is it restricted to certain people? And then test it out. Okay. So the way I'm going to do that is kind of go through these options here. And number 1 configure is probably the most important one. So how can people respond? What I was mentioning to you before about using the website browser or text messaging, this is where you would decide. What I would recommend to all of you is always have website checked. Okay. Again, how I mentioned before, everybody's got a smart device nowadays. Anybody can pull up a browser on their smartphone or their tablet, and they can be ready to take your polls. I would say only offer text messaging if you are using a question type that allows for it. And you'll know because this will be blocked out. So let's say you were giving 3 questions like I did earlier in the demonstration. And 2 of those questions allowed for text messaging. The first one, which was that multiple choice about the Girl Scout cookies. The second one, which is where you type in the answer. But text messaging is not available for the third option, which was that image of the gallbladder scan. So if I was going to do those 3 questions with you guys again, I would not include text messaging as part of it, because if somebody decided they wanted to join through text messaging, they'd kind of be stuck at the last question, and I want it to be a nice, consistent, good experience for everyone. So I can send you a link that tells you which questions allow for text messaging, and then you can decide how to create your polls from there. In this case, I'll just take text messaging off, and you can see that it's removed from this top bar right here. Another thing I'll say is when people are going to take your polls, you'll notice that when I started the demonstration, I had a slide up that told you how to log in so that you could take the polls. And I gave you a few minutes to do so. I highly recommend doing that if you plan on having a few polls in your presentation, and give people time to just get situated, especially if you've got text messaging set up as an option. It takes about a minute for people to text in that they're ready to join your polls, and then they get a response back from Poll Everywhere saying that, okay, now you can join the session. So definitely just don't throw the polls up on the screen. It's kind of jarring to some people, and then they're rushing and they're not really participating, and I don't think it's the greatest experience. So just something I would recommend to always kind of prepare them to sign into the polls first and then move on to the polls. All right, so I decided people are going to respond via website. And now I'm going to audience restriction. This goes to the question that we got earlier about can it be anonymous, or are names attached to how people answer? So usually when I do presentations, I put that everybody can participate. There's no restrictions on who can join. And I can have an auto-generated ID or have it be completely anonymous. Let me describe what all these things are. So right now, everybody can take my poll. However, if I was a teacher in a classroom setting, let's say I have, you know, a class of about 10 people that I meet with every week, I might want to restrict it to just them, because maybe I want to track exactly how they're doing. Maybe I'm giving quizzes over poll everywhere. So if I did that, what I would have to do in advance, and I'll show you where to do this, is give Poll Everywhere a list of who these people are, so that they can join the poll, and Poll Everywhere knows that only these people can join. That's going to be over in participants, which I'll show you in a little bit. But right now I'm going to leave it to everyone, and that's usually what most people do if they're giving presentations. Okay. The difference between auto-generated ID and completely anonymous is, so if I do completely anonymous, I don't know at all who took my polls. Okay. There's nothing that gives me an indication of who took them. When I gave you guys the poll just earlier, the 3 questions, I had it on auto-generated ID. That doesn't mean I was collecting information about you, but there's this little ID number that was assigned to all of you. So if I go into my reports, I can see that so-and-so, who's number 563, whatever, answered a specific way across all 3 questions. So really an auto-generated ID is great if you want it to be anonymous, but you kind of want to track how maybe one particular may have answered throughout the session. You won't know who that person is, but you can see kind of a line item in Excel of how they answered throughout the poll. So just something to keep in mind. It really depends on what you want to do. You've also got response settings. You can decide how many times a person can respond. You know, they can select an option just once or as many times as you like. You know, they can change their answer. Really, all of that is up to you as you are creating your poll. So just take a look at response settings and see just kind of how you want people to answer your questions. And there's also something called schedule lock and unlock times. I personally have never used this, but you can kind of schedule when a poll is unlocked, and it's kind of got a timer on it of how fast people can answer. I don't really think that this option is helpful for kind of a presentation like we're doing now, or I'm just creating polls on the fly and just having you answer because I'm curious about your opinions. But if you've kind of got maybe a quiz set up, you may want to just have polls you know, displayed for a certain amount of time. It's really up to you. So that's just an option that you may want to look at as you create your polls. All right, so I'm ready to go. I want to test this and make sure it works. So guys, the way that you make sure that your polls are visible to other people so they could take is you'll see these 4 or not 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons on the side here. And anytime you want a poll to be turned on, essentially, so people can answer, you just have to make sure that activate is selected. And I'm showing you one option to display your polls right from the browser. Okay. The other way is going to be through like a PowerPoint presentation like I did earlier, and I'll show you how to do that. But here's the easiest option. I'm going to click activate, and I'm going to go in full screen mode, and all of you should be able to take this poll right now. If you open your browser again to pollev.com/Vanessa, you'll see this and you can answer. All right, so it looks like people are answering, and it looks like GIF is the winner right now with 83%. It's changing. So you know, you can you know, that's a really easy way to just kind of throw up a poll. And it only took me a few minutes. It just took me a little longer because I was explaining it to you guys, but it was very fast. All right. Really cool things that you could do is I'm going to unclick show responses. And let's say I wanted you guys to answer and I gave you like, you know, 30 seconds or so. And then all of you answered. I could see the total number of people who responded. And then I could be, well, this is what everyone thinks. Voila, show responses. And then, oops, sorry. Bridget, can I just double check that you can hear my mic?
Yep, I can hear your mic.
Sorry, it got disconnected very briefly. Sorry about that, guys. But so that's a cool way that you can use show responses to kind of have a really neat dramatic effect to revealing your poll results. You can also click on lock. Let's say that you just want to give people 30 seconds to respond. And after 30 seconds, you click lock. Nobody else can respond after that. Full screen, obviously, I showed you how that worked earlier. I just made it larger so that all of you could see it a little easier on the screen. Visual settings, I can't go through all of this because of time, but you can change how the results appear on the screen. I could do a column chart, I could do a donut chart, and I can change like font schemes, colors, things like that, and hit save. And the last part that is the most important anytime you give a presentation is, so that presentation that I gave you earlier with my PowerPoint slides, I have done it, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 times at this point. And every time I do it, I have a new audience. So before I show you the polls, I do this. I clear the responses, because if I did not do that, you would see the results from the previous session. And I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want you to be influenced by what other people had voted. I just want it to be a clean slate, so that you can, you know, just choose the poll you want, and we just see the answers for this particular session. So again, clear responses, super important if you use a poll over and over and over again. Okay. So that's how I created my poll in the browser on the Poll Everywhere website. What if you want to do it in your PowerPoint presentation like I did earlier? So that takes a couple of steps, but it's not too bad. So let's go back to our dashboard. All right, if I scroll to the very bottom of my dashboard, you will see right here something called desktop apps and a few options here: PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides. PowerPoint is by far the most popular one, so I'm going to show you how to use that one. And I personally use PowerPoint, so I'm going to click on that one. So it knows I've got a Mac, so all I have to do is click download for Mac. I'm not going to do that right now because I've already got it downloaded. But so if whether you've got a Mac or a Windows device, all you have to do is download the plugin and install it on your device. All right. And now what you're going to do from this point varies depending on the device you have. I'm going to show you on the Mac first. So here's my PowerPoint presentation. You'll see these slides, right, that I already showed you earlier. But what if I wanted to add that slide that I just created about whether you say GIF or GIF? Okay. The way I would do that is on the Mac, there is a separate Poll Everywhere app that you'll see at the bottom of my screen. My cursor's kind of hovering over it, and I'm going to open it. All right. You log into this app the same way you log into the website, which is using your Weill Cornell email address, same way. And all I have to do is find the poll that I just created, which is this one right here. And I can select as many as I want. Okay. I click all the slides that I want, and when I am done with the PowerPoint presentation open, I hit insert slides. And it's going to say, do you want it to look like this? Do you want it to have an instruction slide? I usually just use default, and I'm going to do insert slides. And it's going to take about a couple seconds, and boom, right there, my new slide, how do you pronounce this term, is available in my presentation. And just like any other slide in PowerPoint, I can move it around wherever I want, although it makes sense to have it probably right after the last poll that I did. You'll notice that Poll Everywhere slides have these little squares in the corner of each slide. And that just indicates that they're Poll Everywhere slides, but it's also a good indicator of whether your polls are working. So the cool thing about putting your Poll Everywhere slides in PowerPoint is that you don't have to manually activate them like I did in the browser. These slides will be activated as soon as I put them in slideshow mode, okay? But the thing that you have to remember is if you're doing this through PowerPoint and doing Poll Everywhere slides, you just have to make sure that your app is always signed into and on at the time you're doing your PowerPoint presentation, all right? So I'm gonna play from start. Oopsie, let me not play from start. Let me play from the current slide. Let's go to the one here, the gallbladder one. And you're going to notice when I play it from the current slide, the squares are going to be in the corner and then they blink and kind of disappear. And that's how you know that when those little squares disappear, that this poll is working and ready for people to participate. And if I go to the next slide, that one's going to be activated and it's our new one right there that I just put together. Again, when we were talking about clearing responses, all I have to do is hover in the right-hand corner and click clear responses and they're gone. And you guys could take this if you wanted to. Again, you know, it's part of the presentation and it's collecting the data. If you're on a Windows device, it's going to look a little different. Obviously, it's hard for me to demonstrate this because I'm on a Mac, but there's not going to be a separate app in your dock like on a Mac. For everybody using a Windows version of PowerPoint, after you download the application, there's going to be a big button here that says Poll Everywhere. It's going to be among your tabs, and you're going to click on it, and you're just going to log in like you did on the website with your Weill Cornell email. And you're just going to click on that button to pull up basically the same polls once you sign in like I did here. And you're just going to add the slides the same way. It's just instead of a separate app running at the bottom of my screen, it's going to be right here for Windows user in their PowerPoint tabs. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Any questions about that or anything I've shown so far?
Yeah, Vanessa, actually, we have a fair amount of questions. Do you want to take them now,
Yeah, let me take some now.
Okay, awesome. Let me go back to where we left off. Can this poll be used for non-Weill Cornell Medicine employees?
Yes, it does not matter whether somebody is from Weill Cornell or not. They can take the polls just by logging into the URL like everybody else, and they should be able to participate.
Awesome. What was the participant maximum again?
1,600 per presentation. So unless you plan to have like 2,000 people, you're probably good.
Do we get to keep Poll Everywhere access when you graduate from Weill Cornell?
So you won't have the Weill Cornell license. You'll probably still have your account, but it would move. I think there's like a free version of Poll Everywhere, and it doesn't quite have the same features. So you might still have your account, but unfortunately, you're not going to have the same features that you get right now. So that's what happens when you leave the institution. Although I will double check with our admin just to make sure that I'm right about that.
And then a couple of questions about how we got to various screens.
Yeah.
Can you show again how to get QR codes?
Yeah, so the QR codes, let me go back to Poll Everywhere. The QR codes are going to be under your profile, which is at the very bottom left-hand side, this little icon of a person. And it's going to be under personal info, and right under your username, you're going to see that little link that says download QR code. And this is a pretty new feature. So let me, I'll write that down in the follow-up email to you guys so that you can find it.
Great. How did you get the Weill Cornell branding on the branded response page?
So I actually think that it might be included already as a default, but if it's not, the easiest way to do it is I found this color scheme on our brand website, which is brand.weill.cornell.edu. And there's a section about colors, and it gives you these hexadecimal codes, and I just stuck them in where I thought it made sense. So I have all the font as white, and then I've got, the darker orange background, and then I think it just made this gray. So it's pretty easy to put together. I think it might be the default though, so maybe you don't have to go through it, but I'll include the brand website just in case.
Great. And actually a follow-up question on that topic, are we able to upload our own branding for our department?
So technically you can. I believe there is a place to upload your logo. Yeah, there it is. So under content, I've just got the regular Weill Cornell white logo. That's like the basic one for the entire, the entire campus. But if you've got one for your department, yeah, you can definitely upload it right here under content. You can see that there's a default, hang tight, your poll is loading. I left it, but you can change the messaging that appears here as well.
Cool. And there are a couple that I'm going to save till the end because they might be more involved, but some that I think have quicker answers. Does a participant responding to text messaging polls have to download the Poll Everywhere app, or do they receive a text link that they click on?
Oh, so that's a good question. Let me go into a poll to just kind of show you how it would work. Let's do the last one that I did. I'm going to add that people can answer through text messaging. Okay, so what happens is you'll see now that at the very top, it says text Vanessa to 22333 to join. So what happens if you add the text messaging option, somebody's going to do this. They're going to text my name to this number. And it takes a few seconds, but they get a response back from Poll Everywhere saying, oh, hey, are you trying to join Vanessa's polls? and they just have to confirm, and boom, they're allowed to join. So they do not have to download an app. They're doing this all through the SMS app on their phone.
Great. What else? Does this have to be within a PowerPoint presentation?
It does not. You can use the other options there, Google Slides or Keynote. And also, like I was showing you earlier, you could just create polls within the website application and just hit full screen and activate them, and people can take them. So you could do it directly from the website. So those are just two options. I show people how to do the PowerPoint one because it's a very popular request that people have, and it makes sense. You know, you're putting presentations in PowerPoint, so why not slap in your polls as well?
Great. And then Robin had a couple of questions. One was, how did you get to the screen? My screen looks different. But then I see, Robin, you just asked again, can you show the screen again with the background and text body primary number? Is that the screen you were referring to in your question earlier? Yes. Okay, great.
Perfect.
So it's the screen with the background and text body primary number.
Oh, so that was under the profile, the branding, correct? So it's here. You're going to click on your profile at the bottom left, and there's an option here called branded response page. And that's how I got that background text body primary page.
Great. Can Poll Everywhere be used via Zoom?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. So it can be used via Zoom. What you want to do, which actually this is a really great point that you reminded me of, whoever asked this question. When you share your screen on Zoom to do your polls, I highly recommend to share your entire desktop and not just PowerPoint, for example. The reason is because if you just shared your PowerPoint slides, you run the risk of people not being able to see the answers for some reason. It's a very weird glitch, but they can see everything on your screen if you share your desktop. I highly recommend, if you're going to do Poll Everywhere polls, to definitely share your entire desktop. We actually did a tip up video about this, like how to integrate your polls into PowerPoint. I'll share that with everybody. It's like a quick 2-minute video that tells you how to set it up. It's super easy. So just in case you forget and want to double check that you did it correctly, that video will be very helpful.
Great. There's one question from Nashad. He said, I'm creating a login and got the following message. You can either request to join your colleagues or create your own account. If you're responding to a Poll Everywhere activity, head to your presenter's response page. And they're wondering, which one should I choose?
You definitely want to create your own account using your Weill Cornell address. I'd be curious to know if you have ever had a Poll Everywhere account before. Maybe it's like seeing something in your email, but definitely you want your own account.
Great. And I think we are reaching the end. Oh, Randall's wondering, in your opinion, is Poll Everywhere superior to SurveyMonkey?
Oh, yes, in terms, well, SurveyMonkey is more like Qualtrics, I will say. So it's hard to compare SurveyMonkey to Poll Everywhere. I will say Poll Everywhere is superior in the sense that you get an enterprise license, so there's more features. And in SurveyMonkey, I mean, we don't have a license for that at Weill Cornell, so you get the free version, and it's not quite as robust as either Poll Everywhere or even Qualtrics. Like, there's a lot more question types you can use and other features that wouldn't be available in the free version of SurveyMonkey. So I'd highly recommend using one of those tools if you want to poll or survey people instead of SurveyMonkey.
Great. That is it for the questions.
Awesome. Before we go, guys, I'm going to show you really quick with 1 minute left how to register people for your sessions if you want them, if you want to be able to track who answers. So right here, there's this little icon of 2 people. They're participants. And I've got a few participants already registered for my classes. But let's say you want to add people to a class. so that you can track how they answer. All you have to do is click add participants, and you can import a list of people, and all you would need are first name, last name, and email address. You can share a link with them so that they can sign up themselves, or you could even connect the polls to Canvas, which is really cool. If you do import here, which I think is what most people do, you can actually download a spreadsheet in Excel where it gives you like the columns and things like that. And basically just, again, email, first name, last name are the required things to register people. And you would just follow these instructions. You would email the instructions to your participants after you upload the file, and you would assign them to a class that you already have, or just create a new one. And then when you create your polls, like I was showing you earlier, and you have that option to add registered users, you would just select the class that you want to take those polls. So that's how the registered users options work. And really quickly, if you ever want to go back to see how people answered during the sessions, there's this little clipboard icon here called reports. And you would just click on any of these questions where, you gave the poll, and you could just download the results and see how people answered over one session, or even do an entire run of every time you did the survey. You can also create reports to include any questions that you want. There's different types of reports. I think there's like a grade book for the registered classroom one. But yeah, there's lots of different options here that you can choose from to basically look at how people have responded to your questions. And the last icon here, really quickly, because I know I'm just slightly over, there's something called Teams. So if I wanted to share the polls that I created with other people that I work with, all I would have to do is you have to email our educational technologies group. I'll send that to you in the follow-up email. But you just say, hey, I want a team with a bunch of people in my department where we can all share these polls. So basically they created one for me, and it's got these people in it and me. And anytime that I create a poll, all I would have to do is, if I wanted to share it with them, I could just, click on the poll, and I think it's under more. Yeah, share the responses. So I can share it with people on a particular team, and they can also use the polls whenever they want. If I was, sharing polls with you guys, and my colleague happened to be sharing the same polls at the same time, our answers would not cross into each other. Their answers would be in their account, and my answers would be in my account. But it's a really great way where if you've got, like, let's say a training team of people and they all want to use like the same types of questions, they all don't have to create their own questions. One person can do it and share it with everybody else. So kind of a cool feature that's available under Teams. And you just have to ask a member of ETG to set that up for you. I'll make sure to add that to the follow-up email. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely do it for your department. And that is Poll Everywhere in a nutshell. I'm sorry that I'm just slightly over, but are there any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, one more, and actually it's a good finishing question. Is there dedicated ITS support for this through Cornell, or should we contact Poll Everywhere directly?
So it kind of depends what you will want to do. There's a little support button right here, help, and you can reach out to Poll Everywhere support, if there's something wrong with your account, you think, and you just need some help. But again, we do have an educational technologies group who is also available to help if you have any questions about Poll Everywhere. And again, I'll be sending that via email as well as the help link. So if you ever need assistance with Poll Everywhere, there are a couple of places you can go. Anything else?
No, just thank yous and compliments.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'm sorry I went just a tiny bit over, but thank you so much for taking the time to learn about Poll Everywhere today. Bridget, thank you so much for fielding all of those questions, since it's hard to see over Zoom while I'm presenting. And again, at the end of today, I will be sending you guys the recording as well as some links that you can use to explore Poll Everywhere a little bit more. But other than that, have a great day. Thank you, guys.